How we doing? Good.
Josh, Steph was saying yesterday, one of the reasons why he chose you was yourself, Vrabel, Drake. Lots of good things. Use the word genius with you, talking about it. Just what have you seen from Steph? And it's the 1 year anniversary of his surgery this week, and what he's been able to do.
That's kind of him. It's untrue, but it's kind. I've said this since he got here. He's been a tremendous professional, great influence on everybody. Comes ready to go, wants to win, very competitive, smart player. He's tough. He's got great savvy. Football makes sense to him. I think he's been a really good guy for our young players to watch work, watch during the course of the day, how he prepares, and then certainly, obviously, his influence on our team, on the practice field, during the course of the game. There's an energy and an intensity about him that never stops. And I appreciate that as a coach because that's a long season and there's a lot of ups and downs and a lot of things you kind of go through. And there's some lulls in the action on game day, and it never seems to affect him. So very consistent with his approach, his demeanor, and his performance. And so as a coach, I don't know what else you could ask for from that.
Stefan also said he doesn't necessarily trust a ton of people, but he really trusts you and Todd and Mike. When you hear that as a coach, what do you think?
Well, I appreciate that, and certainly I think trust is something that you earn. They shouldn't just give it to you right off the bat because you have a coach beside your name. So I think that speaks to the way that I think Braves set up the entire offseason into training camp. It was about building relationships and understanding the people and knowing what makes each one of us tick and why this is important to us, because it's not the same for every one of us. As much as we wish it was, there's different things that motivate and drive all of us. And I think we've gotten to know him well. I think we've gotten to know all our players that way. And so it's good to hear him say that. Certainly the feeling is mutual. And I think that's a cool thing too. When as a coach, you come in and you're really driving to try to trust all your guys, because when you ask them to do difficult things during the course of a game under pressure in a critical situation, you have to trust them. So I got a lot of faith in him, a lot of trust in him as well.
Josh, Drake is leading the league in completion percentage right now. In your opinion, having worked with obviously a lot of different quarterbacks, is that more because he knows where to go with the ball and when, or is that more of a physical skill that he just seems to possess?
I don't know how it couldn't be both. Meaning, any time a quarterback has a good day, a good practice, or a good season, whatever it is, in terms of completion percentage and giving the guys an opportunity to catch the ball, I think he's got to be, aware of what's happening in the coverage end of it, know what our guys are doing so that he's going to the right place with the ball, and then certainly having the skill, the ability, the talent to put the ball in a place where our guys can catch it and nobody else can touch it. I think I've been very impressed with his ability to do that. He's done it at all three levels of the field, which is another thing that I'm really excited about. And he can access those different points on the field, when it's the right time to throw it there. So I think our players that are receiving the ball, it's always a two-way street. They've made some tough catches. They've done some things with traffic, taking contact after the hit. So anytime a quarterback has a high completion percentage, I always think that's, there's a tandem there working together.
Josh, understanding every fourth down, it's different down at distance and spot on the field and opponent. But like during the week when you're trimming down the plays you might call on fourth down ahead of a game, like what's your process? Is it just an extension of third, or how do you go about selecting those?
Most of the time it would be an extension of that, because it's a gotta have it down. Sometimes it's hard to hold them. Like if you say, hey, I'm going to hold these for 3 fourth down calls. If you love them, it's hard not to use them at the right point in the game, to win the down. If you feel that confident about it, if you really like the play, sometimes you might have a little bit of extra in that area where it's a potential go for it, where it's 4th and 2 to 5, somewhere in there where it's likely that you could have an opportunity. So, yeah, it's a tricky one if you have something you love, not to use it early in the game. But hopefully what we're trying to do at the end of the week is have enough things we like in that distance that if we end up with 2 or 3 3rd and 2 to 5s or what have you, and then all of a sudden there's a 4th down comes up in the 2nd or 3rd quarter, you have enough there where you say, you know what, I like 5 calls in this box and I'm going to use the next one that comes up. So kind of like 2-point plays. You get stuck in the red area and you're having a hard time scoring. It's like, well, just use the 2-point plays that you loved. You know what I mean? Why am I holding them for maybe a chance to use them?
When it comes to summer, Mike was saying that he was pushing Drake to be a leader, or as a leader. Have you seen Drake blossom as a leader since you began working with him?
Quite a bit. I'd say his confidence, he was very well aware of, his standing, but he also wanted to go out there and win and kind of, bring that along with him, and I think it's a lot easier to lead when you've had success and you've been a significant contributor to that. And everybody knew he was the quarterback. Everybody loved his personality, and he's got incredible character and relationships around the building. I think he wanted to be patient enough with that to try to have some success so he could really step forward as a leader. And he's done that. And I think you can tell by his confidence, the way he speaks to other guys in terms of trying to work together to improve some aspect of our offense. His volume, you can always tell when a guy is really confident and really pushing because you can hear him, and he leads in the huddle. He leads out of the huddle. He leads on the sideline in between practices. You'll see him after a series. Sometimes I'm looking for him, because he's walking up and down the sideline and he's communicating with his teammates, which I think is really important. They need to see him. They need to feel him. I know Raves is adamant about that too, and he's done a really good job of understanding his role in that. So I think we've seen a lot of things grow for this young man this year, and certainly as a leader, it's been very impressive.
When teams in the league start to trend back to playing under center a little bit more, and these things often cyclical, I know, but what do you think is maybe behind that, and what kind of advantages do you get from putting the quarterback under center?
Well, I mean, I've never really wanted to be myself, a gun, because I do think there's an element of predictability. If the back is offset, then it certainly affects the type of runs you can run. You don't necessarily have the same ability to go both directions. Not that you can't, but it's just not the same. You don't have the same angles, and the defense knows it. Sometimes they'll set their front accordingly when your back is offset in the shotgun to try to stop the things that they know are coming in the running game. I think play action passes have always been better under center than in the gun because you have a play action's importance, the time it takes from the ball to be snapped for the ball to leave the belly of the back is really where you want the defense to get out of position. And it takes longer for that to happen when you're under center as opposed to when you're in the shotgun, because it's really a quick fake and now the quarterback has the ball and everybody sees it. So they're not as distorted in the coverage end of it too. So I just think there's more versatility. I think there's definitely some things relative to the running game and the play action game that are improved by being under center. And honestly, like for me, part of it's just kind of the mindset of being able to be under center and, run the football, turn around, hand it off, try to go downhill with it. Some of those things are important, especially when the weather starts to change in New England. And I've spent most of my life here. So, cold weather, windy situations, rain, snow, those things, snapping the ball 65 times in the shotgun can be a problem.
I think Graves mentioned how, as a play caller and a play sequencer, you're able to kind of keep a lot of things going and be on top of a lot of things. Are there any lessons you've learned along the way that you maybe wish you had learned a little bit earlier in your career that allow you to kind of maintain all those things at once?
Probably a lot. I know I learn every week, and try to self-scout, the process that we used and then what happened in the game to try to keep a catalog of that, in case you play the coordinator or that defense again. I think part of, at least in my opinion, play calling, sometimes it's what you don't call that's probably as important as what you do call. And having enough confidence in yourself and your staff and your team, in the middle of the first or second quarter to cross off 7 things because of what's happening in the game or how it's going, and not be so bullheaded about, well, I like this on Tuesday or Wednesday, and I'm just, by gosh, I'm going to call it no matter what, And so I think, having enough confidence to say, look, we got better things than these things. As much as I like them, it's just not going to be good for us. I think that's an important part of it. And just don't ever get too far away from remembering that it's about them. It's not about the play. It's about the players. And so to me, at the end of the day, you gotta call the things that give your guys the best chance to do what they do great. And as long as you do that, you'll usually have a chance to have success.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
Josh.